In the early 6th century, the ancient land of Yamato in Japan existed under the spiritual protection of native spirits known as kami, where every daily activity from rice agriculture to royal rituals was deeply tied to early Shinto beliefs. The imperial court and local clans relied on these spiritual forces to maintain the peace of the realm, viewing their constant presence as the supreme foundation of cosmic order. Early rulers of the Yamato court, alongside powerful clans such as the Mononobe and Nakatomi, asserted their legitimacy of power by tracing their ancestral lineages back to supreme deities like the sun goddess Amaterasu. This sacred lineage served as their primary justification for social hierarchy and governance, establishing a rigid political system that bound the ruling classes to the traditional ancestral cults of the land. The isolation of the island nation began to shift as waves of migration from the Korean peninsula brought advanced technologies and continental philosophies into the Yamato region. These early diplomats and immigrants introduced iron forging methods, Chinese logographic writing, and complex religious systems that challenged the local communities, starting a gradual process of cultural integration that slowly reached the highest levels of the imperial court. A significant turning point occurred in the year 538 when King Seong of the Baekje kingdom on the Korean peninsula dispatched an official diplomatic mission to the court of Emperor Kime in the Yamato region. This foreign delegation carried a specific diplomatic directive aimed at securing military alliances and political influence through the introduction of a new continental faith to the ruling elite. Among the diplomatic gifts presented by the Baekje delegation to the Yamato court were a shining gilded bronze statue of Shakyamuni Buddha, several sacred Buddhist scrolls written in Chinese characters, and ceremonial banners. This presentation marked the first time that the ruling aristocrats of ancient Japan directly encountered the material culture and written scriptures of the Buddhist religion, sparking immediate curiosity among the officials. Emperor Kime stood before these continental offerings at the Kanashi no Mariko Palace in the Asuka region, with a mixture of wonder and deep political anxiety. The sovereign had never encountered a foreign belief system possessing such intricate physical representations and sophisticated philosophical texts, making him realize that this new teaching carried immense potential to transform the existing social order of his kingdom. Accompanying the religious items was a personal letter from King Seong praising Buddhism as a doctrine of boundless merit that could secure divine protection for the state against external invasions and internal disasters. This written message immediately ignited a fierce political dispute among the high-ranking ministers of the Yamato court, who split into rival factions over the adopting of this continental system. To resolve the matter, Emperor Kime summoned an emergency council at the Asuka court to consult the three most powerful ministers of the time: Soga no Iname, Mononobe no Akoshi, and Nakatomi no Kamak. This high-level gathering quickly degenerated into a tense political battlefield, exposing a deep division between those who favored continental integration and those who guarded local traditions. The Soga clan represented the progressive nobles managing state finance and foreign diplomacy, and they strongly advocated adopting continental ideas to modernize the administrative structure of the court. Conversely, the Mononobe clan commanding the military forces and the Nakatomi clan overseeing traditional Shinto rituals rejected the introduction of the foreign deity, fearing it would dismantle their own authority within the state hierarchy. The disagreement among the senior ministers at the Kanashi no Mariko Palace in the year 538 represented a struggle for ultimate administrative control over the Yamato court. The impending decision of the emperor was destined to reshape the entire political framework of the ancient nation, as the choice between ancestral customs and foreign innovations would determine which faction dominated the royal administration. Chief Minister Soga no Iname stepped forward in the Asuka court and expressed his enthusiastic support for accepting the Buddhist teachings sent from the Baekje kingdom. He argued that the advanced empires to the west on the Asian mainland worshipped the Buddha, and Yamato could not afford to isolate itself from this progressive geopolitical movement if it wished to remain a relevant regional power. Soga no Iname planned to utilize Buddhism as a cultural tool to link the Yamato court with the Liang dynasty of China, hoping to strengthen his clan's prestige over domestic rivals. He believed that adopting the worship of the Buddha would bring advanced brick manufacturing, architectural techniques, and copper casting technologies that would enhance the material power of the central state. In stark opposition, ministers Mononobe no Akoshi and Nakatomi no Kamako united in their condemnation before Emperor Kime at the Yamato court. They argued that their ancestral islands had enjoyed the protection of native spirits since antiquity, and introducing the worship of a foreign deity would constitute an act of betrayal against the traditional gods, inviting divine retribution upon the entire ruling house. The Mononobe family feared that the arrival of Buddhism would undermine their traditional military authority, which relied on the prestige of native spirits of war. They warned that the protector deities of the Yamato state would unleash terrible plagues and cosmic punishments upon the imperial court if they allowed the worship of a foreign spiritual figure instead of performing the customary purification rituals. Nakatomi no Kamako, the hereditary leader of the Shinto ritualists, cautioned that neglecting the traditional ceremonies at the sacred Ise Grand Shrine would sever the bond between humanity and the kami. He asserted that this foreign religion posed a direct threat to the survival of the Yamato kingdom, as it would lead to the abandonment of agricultural rituals that sustained the agrarian society. Emperor Kime was caught in a difficult position, balancing the administrative advantages of Soga technology against the spiritual traditions championed by the Mononobe faction. In order to prevent an immediate armed conflict within the Asuka court, the sovereign resolved to make a compromise by treating the new continental worship as an experiment, rather than officially declaring it as the state religion. Emperor Kime decided to entrust the gilded bronze statue of Buddha to Soga no Iname, permitting him to worship it privately at his own estate instead of adopting it officially. This tactical decision was intended to test whether the foreign deity would bring prosperity or calamity, allowing the court to observe the consequences before making any permanent changes to the religious framework. Having obtained the imperial permission, Soga no Iname carried the Buddha statue to his private residence in the Mukuhara region and transformed an outbuilding into the first private Buddhist temple. This site became the primary sanctuary for the Soga clan and their continental allies, where they conducted daily prayers and studied the newly arrived scriptures away from the critical eyes of their political rivals. Shortly after Soga no Iname began performing regular prayers before the statue at Mukuhara, a severe smallpox epidemic broke out across the Yamato region in the year 552. Thousands of local residents, from young children to the elderly, suffered from high fevers and painful skin lesions, resulting in a rapid surge of fatalities that devastated the agricultural workforce and disrupted regional trade. The contagion spread rapidly, penetrating the royal family and high-ranking aristocratic lineages residing within the capital city of Asuka, creating a state of panic throughout the government. Wailing and the smell of cremation smoke filled the roads leading to the palace of Emperor Kime, prompting officials to seek an immediate cause for the unprecedented disaster that threatened the ruling lineage itself. Ministers Mononobe no Akoshi and Nakatomi no Kamako utilized this smallpox disaster to assert that the native kami of Japan were angry at the introduction of the foreign deity. They submitted formal petitions to Emperor Kime demanding the immediate destruction of the foreign statue, arguing that only the eradication of this continental belief would appease the native spirits and end the pestilence. Under immense pressure from the smallpox plague and the opposition of his military clans, Emperor Kime consented to the destruction of the private Buddhist shrine belonging to the Soga clan. This decision provided a golden opportunity for the Mononobe and Nakatomi coalition to weaken the political standing of their rivals, presenting the dismantling of the temple as a necessary act of national purification. Soldiers of the Mononobe clan under the direct command of Akoshi invaded the Mukuhara estate, seized the gilded bronze statue of Shakyamuni Buddha, and defaced it with iron hammers. Subsequently, they threw the damaged metal icon into the Naniwa Canal in modern-day Osaka to wash away the spiritual impurity, hoping to satisfy the local kami and demonstrate the superiority of ancestral rites. Not content with throwing the Buddha statue into the canal, the forces of Mononobe no Akoshi set fire to the wooden temple building at Mukuhara belonging to the Soga family. The blaze consumed the entire structure during the night, burning the imported scriptures and reducing the sanctuary to ash, symbolizing the physical eradication of the foreign faith from the sacred landscape of Yamato. Although the Soga temple was burned and the Buddha icon discarded in the Naniwa Canal, the smallpox epidemic of 552 persisted, claiming more victims among the Yamato population. This outcome introduced a profound doubt into the mind of Emperor Kime regarding the effectiveness of Shinto rites alone, as the devastation continued despite the forceful elimination of the foreign Buddhist presence from the capital. When the Hinokuma no Iorino Palace was struck by lightning and burned down shortly afterward, many court officials suspected this event was a sign of the Buddha's anger over the defilement of the statue. Despite these fears, the next ruler, Emperor Baidatsu, continued to enforce the anti-Buddhist policies established by his predecessors, refusing to sanction any official worship of the foreign deity. The resistance of the Soga clan revived when Soga no Yumako assumed leadership of the family and secretly rebuilt the temple at Mukuhara in the year 572. Yumako gathered surviving Buddhist texts from continental merchants and resumed the family rituals, maintaining their religious allegiance in defiance of the imperial prohibition while seeking new allies among the immigrant communities of Yamato. Following the death of Soga no Iname in the year 570, his son Soga no Yumako inherited the title of Great Minister, continuing the family goal of making the Soga clan the dominant force at the Yamato court. Yumako recognized that promoting the Buddhist faith would provide his clan with a distinct administrative advantage and access to advanced continental systems of governance. Soga no Yumako expanded his influence by erecting a new temple on his private estate and inviting foreign Buddhist monks to perform sermons. This move directly challenged the official bans enforced by Emperor Baidatsu, escalating political tensions with conservative clans who viewed this private religious assembly as an attempt to construct an independent power center outside the imperial administration. To establish a domestic Buddhist clergy, Soga no Yumako sponsored the ordination of the first 3 Buddhist nuns in Japan in the year 584, led by the nun Zenshin Nai, the daughter of Shiba Tatsu. This event marked the official creation of the first native monastic community on the islands, providing the Soga clan with dedicated ritual specialists to perform ceremonies. The nun Zenshin Nai and her 2 companions began conducting regular sutra recitations to pray for the recovery of the ailing Emperor Baidatsu at the Soga temple in the Asuka region. The sight of these shaved-headed women wearing simple gray robes draped over their shoulders caused astonishment among the conservative court nobles, who had never witnessed female monastic devotion before. However, another devastating wave of smallpox broke out in the year 585, causing numerous deaths among both royal family members and ordinary citizens. The political opponents of the Soga clan immediately blamed the public prayers of the 3 Buddhist nuns, arguing that this visible worship of the foreign deity had once again provoked the wrath of the local kami. Minister Mononobe no Moriya, who had recently succeeded his father as head of the militaristic Mononobe clan, led a detachment of armed soldiers to the Soga temple to enforce Shinto law. Moriya was determined to use this crisis to destroy the political power of Soga no Yumako, positioning himself as the defender of the ancestral gods against continental corruption. The soldiers of Mononobe no Moriya arrested the 3 nuns, including Zenshin Nai, dragged them to the busy market square of the Asuka capital, stripped them of their robes, and publicly whipped them with bamboo rods. This severe humiliation was intended to deter other members of the court from supporting the Soga clan's patronage of the foreign Buddhist religion. Simultaneously, Mononobe no Moriya ordered the confiscation of the Soga clan's new bronze Buddha statue, throwing it into the Naniwa Canal in Osaka to remove the spiritual defilement. This physical destruction pushed the long-standing rivalry between the Soga and Mononobe families into a lethal phase, making an open armed conflict for control of the Yamato state inevitable. Following the sudden death of Emperor Baidatsu from smallpox in the year 585, Emperor Yomei ascended the throne but quickly fell critically ill after a short reign of 2 years. The illness of the monarch created a dangerous power vacuum in the Asuka court, prompting both Soga and Mononobe factions to mobilize their forces in preparation for a succession dispute. During his final days in the year 587, Emperor Yomei officially declared his desire to convert to Buddhism to seek spiritual healing, infuriating the Shinto ministers of the court. This announcement marked the first time a reigning Yamato sovereign had publicly embraced the continental faith, breaking the imperial custom that bound the throne exclusively to the worship of native kami. The death of Emperor Yomei in the year 587 ignited a violent succession war between the coalition supporting Soga no Yumako and the traditionalist forces led by Mononobe no Moriya. The religious dispute that had divided the Yamato court for decades transformed into an open military confrontation, with each side claiming to fight for the preservation of the state. Great Minister Soga no Yumako assembled a powerful military coalition of imperial princes and allied warrior clans, which included the young Prince Shotoku. They resolved to launch a decisive military campaign to eliminate the Mononobe clan and secure the supremacy of the Soga family over the court administration, marching their combined forces toward the Mononobe stronghold in the east. The young Prince Shotoku, son of the late Emperor Yomei, joined the Soga army at the age of 14, motivated by his personal commitment to the Buddhist teachings. He believed that a victory for the Soga clan would allow the court to establish a new administrative system based on continental ethics, reforming the tribal governance of the Yamato kingdom. In the summer of the year 587, the allied forces under Soga no Yumako marched southeast toward the fortified stronghold of the Mononobe clan in Kawachi province. The opposing armies deployed their archers and foot soldiers along the narrow mountain paths, preparing for a decisive engagement that would determine the survival of the Buddhist faith within Japan. The battle took place near the sacred Mount Shigi, where the defending forces of Mononobe no Moriya had constructed strong wooden palisades on the hillside to repel attacks. The Mononobe warriors fought with high resolve, utilizing their elevated position to unleash volleys of arrows that successfully drove back the initial assaults of the Soga coalition forces. Minister Mononobe no Moriya climbed a tall oak tree on the slopes of Mount Shigi, using his large bamboo bow to shoot down Soga commanders. This active resistance by the Mononobe leader frustrated the attackers, causing the morale of the Soga coalition troops to waver as they suffered casualties without making any progress against the defensive lines. The army of Soga no Yumako was repelled 3 times, falling into deep confusion under the rain of arrows from the Mononobe archers. Several Soga commanders proposed a retreat to preserve their remaining troops, threatening the entire campaign with failure and leaving the future of their clan and the Buddhist faith in Yamato in extreme jeopardy. Recognizing the crisis, Prince Shotoku cut a branch from a wild sumac tree along the road and carved the images of the 4 heavenly kings of Buddhism. The prince held these small wooden icons high and prayed for their spiritual protection, promising to build a grand sanctuary in their honor if they granted victory to the Soga forces. Prince Shotoku swore an oath before his men that he would erect a temple, dedicated to the 4 heavenly kings at Naniwa if they won. This pledge revived the combat spirit of the Soga warriors, who rallied behind the prince's spiritual commitment and prepared for a final effort to break the Mononobe defenses on the slopes of Mount Shigi. Soga no Yumako also offered a prayer to Shakyamuni Buddha, promising to build the temple of Hokojai in the Asuka region as an official center if they triumphed. The dual commitments of the Soga leaders provided a spiritual framework for their troops, transforming the battle from a political conflict into a struggle for the victory of the Dharma. During the subsequent charge, a Soga archer named Tomi Noa Kaiatsu spotted the position of Moriya in the oak tree and released an arrow that struck the Mononobe leader. The fall of Mononobe no Moriya to the ground marked the end of organized resistance, causing his remaining soldiers to lose heart and flee the Kawachi battlefield. With the chief leader Mononobe no Moriya dead, the Mononobe forces scattered into the surrounding forests, leaving their base in Kawachi province to the victors. The Soga clan confiscated the extensive lands and wealth of the Mononobe family, using these assets to fund their building programs and consolidate their administrative control over the imperial court of Yamato. The victory at Mount Shigi in the year 587 eliminated armed resistance to Buddhism and established the Soga clan's control over the Yamato court. From this point, the path for integrating the continental religion into the administration was cleared, allowing the new faith to become a tool for centralizing authority under the Soga leaders and their royal allies. Immediately after consolidating his supreme influence following the decisive military campaign of 587, Great Minister Soga no Yumako orchestrated the ascension of Empress Suiko to the throne of Yamato in the year 592. This political maneuver established the very first female monarch in recorded Japanese history, allowing Yamato to utilize the sacred prestige of the imperial household to stabilize the realm and legitimize his family's progressive continental religious reforms. In the year 593, Empress Suiko appointed her young nephew Prince Shotoku to serve as the official regent, placing him in control of the daily administration of the Yamato court. The close political alliance between Prince Shotoku and Great Minister Soga no Yamato united the royal family and the dominant noble houses, initiating an era of state patronage that accelerated the growth of the newly introduced Buddhist faith across the provinces. Prince Shotoku and Great Minister Soga no Yamato recognized Buddhism as a powerful administrative tool to consolidate authority under the centralized Yamato court, alongside its spiritual merits. They initiated comprehensive governing reforms that integrated continental ethical systems, using the moral principles of the foreign faith to bind the regional chieftains directly to the administrative decisions of the sovereign. To fulfill the sacred vow made before the battle at Mount Shigi, Prince Shotoku ordered the construction of Shinto Temple in the year 593 at the coastal port of Naniwa. Built near the mouth of the Yodo River, this grand sanctuary occupied a strategic shipping gateway, designed to impress foreign envoys arriving from the Sui dynasty of China and the Three Kingdoms of Korea. Prince Shotoku established Shinto Temple as an active administrative institution containing 4 distinct welfare bureaus, which included a shelter for the destitute, a medicinal dispensary, a public hospital, and an asylum. This integrated complex provided essential services to the local population of Naniwa, incorporating the humanitarian values of the continental faith into the daily welfare operations managed by the Yamato state. At the same time, Great Minister Soga no Yamato oversaw the completion of Asukadera Temple in the year 596, which stood as the largest clan-sponsored monastery in the Yamato region. The massive wooden complex demonstrated the vast wealth and technological supremacy of the Soga family, securing their political hegemony over the traditionalist clans who still opposed the foreign teachings. To construct these unprecedented architectural monuments, the Yamato court invited master carpenters, bronze casting experts, and roof tile artisans from the Korean kingdom of Baekje to direct local laborers. The introduction of heavy gray kiln-fired clay tiles replaced the traditional thatched and bark roofs of regional shrines, permanently altering the visual appearance of public buildings throughout the capital of Asuka. In the year 609, the skilled bronze sculptor Kuritsukuri no Torai completed the casting of the massive Asuka Daibutsu, a gilded bronze statue of Buddha placed inside the main hall of Asukadera Temple. This metallic monument survived numerous fires over subsequent centuries, remaining the oldest documented bronze Buddhist sculpture still standing in its original location in modern Japan. The production of the Asuka Daibutsu required the Yamato court to mobilize approximately 15 tons of copper and 30 kilograms of gold for the exterior gilding process. This massive expenditure of strategic metal resources reflected the centralization of tax revenue under the Asuka administration, enabling the ruling elites to finance grand religious projects that displayed their treasury strength. In the year 607, Prince Shotoku commissioned the construction of Horyojai Temple in the Ikaruga region to serve as a designated center for academic research and the study of imported Buddhist scriptures. This remote monastery provided a secure repository for sacred texts, allowing scholars to translate Chinese manuscripts and train administrative officials in the legal and philosophical systems of the continent. Although the original Horyojai temple complex was destroyed by a massive fire in the year 670, the imperial court initiated an extensive reconstruction project on an adjacent plot of land using the original architectural layouts. The rebuilt main hall and the 5-story wooden pagoda survived subsequent conflicts, standing today as the oldest verified wooden structures in the world. The construction of major temples such as Horyojai and Asukadera transformed the flat landscape of the Yamato Valley, introducing towering wooden pagodas that rose above the agricultural fields. Local farming communities encountered a new sensory environment as the heavy bronze bells of these state-sponsored monasteries began to toll at dawn, marking the hours of the day and altering traditional daily routines. In the year 604, Prince Shotoku issued the 17-article constitution, a landmark administrative code that combined the political ethics of Confucianism with the moral principles of Buddhism. This legal document was directed at the ruling class and regional ministers of Yamato, establishing behavioral guidelines to curb corruption and replace the tribal family system with a structured imperial bureaucracy. The second article of the Constitution issued by Prince Shotoku explicitly commanded all state officials and subjects to show deep reverence to the three treasures of Buddhism. The document defined these treasures as the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, declaring them to be the ultimate refuge for all living beings and the primary source of ethical conduct. By integrating the three treasures into the legal foundation of the state, Prince Shotoku intended to establish a unified ideological system for the diverse clans of Yamato. The regent used these shared religious values to counter the destructive factional rivalries of the regional nobility, replacing lineage-based blood feuds with a common loyalty to the imperial administration. In the year 607, Prince Shotoku dispatched an official diplomatic mission led by the envoy Ono no Imoko to the court of the Sui dynasty in China to secure hundreds of Buddhist scriptures. This diplomatic journey also established direct communication between the two sovereigns, allowing Yamato to bypass the Korean kingdoms and obtain continental religious knowledge directly from the Chinese mainland. Scholarly Buddhist monks from the Korean kingdom of Goguryeo and the Chinese Sui dynasty accompanied the returning diplomatic missions to the Asuka capital to teach written Chinese characters and scriptures. These foreign teachers also brought advanced medical techniques, astronomical charts, and calendar-making systems to the Yamato court, providing the central administration with practical technologies to govern the population. The Soga family utilized their control over Buddhist patronage to build a vast network of alliances with regional chieftains by sponsoring temple construction projects across the countryside. This expansion of religious infrastructure shifted the balance of power within the imperial court, causing rival aristocratic families to grow increasingly fearful of the Soga clan's dominant position in the central government. Prominent regional nobles in the provinces began erecting their own private family temples, known as yujidara, to demonstrate their political alignment with the Yamato court. These small rural temples quickly became administrative centers for collecting local taxes and organizing agricultural labor, cementing the authority of the central state over the peasant populations residing far from the capital. To meet the growing demand for religious studies, official transcription workshops were established in the Asuka capital to copy thousands of Chinese manuscripts, including the Nirvana Sutra and the Lotus Sutra. This meticulous transcription work required specialized scribes who possessed precise calligraphic skills, introducing advanced literacy and document storage practices to the early Japanese administrative system. Prince Shotoku personally dedicated his political leisure to drafting detailed commentaries on three major Buddhist sutras, a collection of scholarly works known as the Sangyo Jisha. These historical writings represented the earliest surviving commentaries authored by a member of the Yamato imperial family, establishing the regent as a highly educated authority in both continental law and philosophy. The sudden death of Prince Shotoku in the year 622 disrupted the political stability of the Asuka capital and grieved the court officials who supported his centralized reforms. Following his passing, early Buddhist worshippers began to venerate the regent as a local savior figure, commissioning various wooden sculptures that depicted his likeness to serve as objects of worship. The political vacancy left by Prince Shotoku allowed the Soga clan to exercise unchecked authority, leading to the authoritarian administrations of Soga no Emishi and his ambitious son Soga no Uruka. The aggressive behavior of these Soga leaders alienated other members of the imperial family, who began to organize secret coalitions to overthrow the clan and reclaim control. In the year 645, a violent palace coup known as the Ishchi incident took place inside the imperial court, resulting in the sudden assassination of Soga no Uruka before the eyes of the reigning empress. This dramatic assassination led to the immediate suicide of Soga no Emishi, ending the political domination of the Soga clan over the Yamato court. Although the Soga clan was destroyed, the leaders of the subsequent Taika reforms continued to promote Buddhism as an essential administrative tool for state centralization. When Emperor Tenmu ascended the throne following a civil war, His administration accelerated the nationalization of temples, turning these private monastic communities into official state institutions directly answerable to the central government. Following his decisive victory in the Jinshin War of the year 672, Emperor Tenmu promoted Buddhist institutions to legitimize his new sovereign authority over Yamato. He sought the spiritual protection of the Buddha to guard his court against future rebellions, establishing a network of official sanctuaries that integrated monastic rituals with the daily defense strategies of the central state. In the year 685, Emperor Tenmu issued a decree commanding that every noble household and local government office across the provinces must build a Buddhist shrine containing a statue and scriptures. This administrative mandate represented a systematic effort to distribute the continental religion nationwide, ensuring that the influence of the state-sponsored faith reached every local community in Yamato. This system of state-controlled Buddhism reached its peak during the 8th century under Emperor Shamu, who ordered the establishment of the Kokubunjai temple network across the provinces. These official sanctuaries functioned as spiritual bastions to protect the Yamato state from natural disasters and smallpox epidemics, cementing a tight administrative link between provincial administrators and Nara monks. Every administrative province of the realm constructed one Kokubunjai temple for monks and one Kokubun-niji temple for nuns to perform regular state-sponsored purification ceremonies. The central government and regional supervisors in Nara financed the construction and daily maintenance of these provincial institutions directly from the national tax revenues, establishing a standardized network of ritual sites under imperial control. The administrative headquarters of this nationwide provincial network was Tadaijai Temple in the capital of Nara, which housed a colossal gilded bronze statue known as the Great Buddha. This massive wooden structure and its central copper monument served to display the unified spiritual authority of the Yamato sovereign to domestic clan leaders and visiting diplomats from the Asian mainland. Casting the massive Great Buddha of Nara consumed approximately 440 tons of pure copper and over 440 kilograms of gold for its outer mercury gilding. The colossal 14.98 meters tall statue required the physical labor of hundreds of thousands of specialized artisans and millions of conscripted workers from the provinces, exhausting the administrative resources of the Yamato state. Although the immense construction costs of the Tadaijai project depleted the national treasury and caused severe labor hardships for the population during the 8th century, Emperor Shamu insisted on completing the monument. The sovereign believed that securing the spiritual protection of the Buddha was the sole method to alleviate the smallpox epidemics and agricultural failures that had devastated the country. To persuade the peasant population to voluntarily contribute labor and materials to the massive project, Emperor Shamu enlisted the popular Buddhist monk Jayoki to coordinate the provincial fundraising efforts. Jayoki had traveled extensively throughout the countryside building bridges, digging irrigation canals, and preaching to the poor, making him the most trusted religious figure among the common people. In prior decades, the Nara court had officially banned the monk Jayoki from preaching because he operated outside the strict administrative regulations established for state-sponsored clergy. However, in the year 743, Emperor Shamu revoked the legal restrictions against him, formally inviting Jayoki to organize the national mobilization of labor required to cast the Great Buddha statue. The rapid expansion of Buddhist authority coexisted with traditional kami worship, initiating a gradual process of complex religious syncretism across ancient Japan. Devotees began identifying the ancient local spirits of the mountains and agricultural rivers with the newly introduced foreign bodhisattvas, interpreting the two distinct belief systems as complementary aspects of a single unified spiritual reality. This integration of beliefs was formalized under the term Shinbutsu Shugo, which redefined the local kami as guardian deities of Buddhist temples and monasteries. This conceptual merger minimized administrative friction between native clans and progressive court reformers, allowing both spiritual systems to share authority over ritual sites and secure the backing of the central imperial administration. Numerous small Shinto shrines dedicated to the local land kami were constructed directly within the geographical boundaries of larger Buddhist temples to appease the resident spirits. Monks performed daily sutra recitations facing these Shinto shrines, demonstrating respect to the territorial deities and integrating the ancestral protective rights of the local population into their regular monastic schedules. The most prominent example of this religious syncretism occurred when the court invited the deity Hachiman from the USA shrine in Kyushu to serve as the protector of the Tadaijai Great Buddha project. This high-profile invitation convinced traditional Shinto adherents that the local gods supported the new monument, encouraging thousands of peasants to participate in the construction. In the year 749, the Nara court formally bestowed the title of Great Bodhisattva of Dharma Protection upon the deity Hachiman during an official ceremony. This formal decree integrated the traditional Shinto protector deity into the imperial Buddhist framework, securing a permanent structural alliance between the ancestral temple priests and the central state-sanctioned Buddhist administration. Following this official unification, the parallel veneration of native kami and Buddhist deities became a standard feature of religious life throughout ancient Japan. Agricultural rituals for bountiful rice harvests and purification exorcisms were performed collaboratively by both Shinto priests and Buddhist monks, establishing a shared sacred calendar that governed the seasonal activities of the populace. The rapid expansion of major temples in the capital of Nara created a powerful class of Buddhist clergy that exercised direct political influence over the Yamato court. Prominent monks participated in imperial succession debates, advised the sovereign on administrative policies, and controlled large tax-free agricultural estates, challenging the traditional authority of the hereditary court nobles. To regulate the rapidly expanding monastic population, the central Yamato court established the Soga, a centralized administrative office tasked with issuing official ordination licenses to Buddhist monks. The government declared self-ordained clergy who operated outside this official system to be illegal, enforcing strict punishments to prevent unauthorized religious organizations from collecting resources from the provinces. The prominent monk Robin, who co-founded Tadaijai Temple, served as a primary political advisor to Emperor Shamu during the middle of the 8th century. His influential position inside the imperial palace enabled the Buddhist clergy to directly shape national administrative policies, demonstrating the complete integration of monastic authority within the highest levels of the central Yamato government. The extensive political interference of the 6 Nara sects within the court generated deep anxiety among the imperial family members. This tension reached a critical point when the ambitious monk Baekje attempted to usurp the throne of Japan, forcing the royal family to seek administrative methods to limit the secular power of the capital's massive monasteries. To escape the dominating political interference of the large Nara monasteries, Emperor Kanmu relocated the imperial capital to Hyonkyo in the year 794. At this new administrative center, the sovereign enacted strict decrees that prohibited the established 6 Nara sects from constructing any major temples within the city limits, successfully limiting their direct influence on government. Instead, Emperor Kanmu provided extensive financial patronage to 2 young monk reformers, Seicho and Kyukai, to establish alternative Buddhist sects situated far from the political corruptions of Nara. This imperial backing facilitated the founding of the Tendai and Shingon schools of Buddhism, which focused on strict monastic discipline and esoteric rituals rather than secular administration. The monk Seicho founded Enryakujai Temple on the peak of Mount Hiei to the north of Hyonkyo to serve as the headquarters for his new Tendai sect. Located away from the court, this mountain retreat trained future generations of scholar monks in rigorous meditation, eventually producing the major reformers who shaped the religious history of Japan. Meanwhile, the monk Kyukai established Kongabujai Temple on the remote peak of Mount Koya in the south to propagate the esoteric doctrines of the Shingon sect. The complex visual mandalas, Madra hand gestures, and mystical chanting introduced by Kyukai appealed to the Heian courtiers, who embraced these ceremonies to secure personal health and spiritual protection. Over the course of 3 centuries following the first diplomatic mission in 538, the Buddhist religion transformed the administrative structures and artistic practices of ancient Japan. The foreign faith evolved from a controversial gift presented to Emperor Kime into the official theological framework of the imperial court, establishing a permanent system of laws and state rituals. The surviving wooden pagodas and gilded bronze sculptures built during this era in Nara and Asuka continue to display the architectural methods imported from the mainland. These historical structures remain the primary archaeological evidence of the ancient cultural exchange that occurred between the Yamato court and the dynasties of China and Korea during the 6th and 8th centuries.